What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 17 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. I'm your host, Zach Malat, excited to once again be joined by Josh Malat. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing better today than had you asked me maybe a couple days ago after a Yankee win last night, but can't complain. Excited to talk about it.
Yeah, 100%. And please subscribe below. Follow all of our social accounts. Josh, let's start off with what you were talking about. The New York Yankees taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And we can go through games 1 through 3, but we'll kind of leave it to game 4 last night and the positive vibes from us as Yankee fans as the Yankees grab an 11-4 win at home in the Bronx in game 4. Dodgers still lead this series 3-1, but the Yankees, I mean, it was backs against the wall, looking to avoid the sweep, and they come up big. How about Anthony Volpe in this one, Josh? A monster game from the longtime Yankee fan and in the World Series setting in front of this home crowd. An absolute dream of a game for him, but he goes 2 for 3, 4 RBIs. Obviously, the grand slam, drew a walk as well. But the grand slam is the big part of that. Also had 3 runs scored during the game as well. The grand slam in the third inning, I mean, it broke the game open just a little bit. Obviously, the Dodgers chipping away and coming back. But I feel like the sigh of relief for the Yankees once that ball went out from Volpe, saying, all right, well, we are still in this. We still have a shot. Just takes one game at a time, Josh.
Right. Even though they got through the Royals in the DS and they got through Cleveland in the CS, it still seems like throughout this entire postseason, the Yankees have been itching. Yankee fans have been on the edge of their seats. We've been itching just kind of for that big time breakthrough hit with runners in scoring position. Obviously, it's been well documented. The Yankees struggles in big spots in getting timely hits in key situations, hitting with runners in scoring position, and they just haven't been able to get that big time breakthrough hit. And when Volpe got that hit, you could just sense the sigh of relief amongst all of Yankee Nation, the entire team in the dugout. And then everybody just played looser for the rest of the game from then on out. That was the big blow. That was the big hit that the Yankees have long needed. And Volpe was finally able to deliver with a grand slam to kind of, put the Yankees at ease, set things in motion and allow the Yankees to have what the Dodgers ended up chipping away, but allow the Yankees to have what ended up being a relatively comfortable win after they were to add on a lot of tack-on runs in the 8th. And that's another thing that the Yankees have struggled with this postseason, even when they have a lead, being able to add on and make it a comfortable lead, because even when the Yankees have been winning throughout most of the time this postseason, they've had to use all their high-leverage guys, and it's still been a very stressful win, even when they get the job done. To have that breakthrough 8th inning, the Gleyber Torres 3-run home run, Judge finally broke through with a World Series RBI, to have that big-time 5-run 8th inning to really allow the crowd, allow the team to breathe and have a nice, comfortable win, save some bullets from Luke Weaver so you didn't have to make him get a 7-out save. To me, that was huge for the Yankees' confidence and something that could directly, obviously in a postseason series, things lead from one game to another. Saving Luke Weaver and having a nice, comfortable Game 4 win could pay dividends for the Yankees as this series rolls along to Game 5 tonight. But a big-time win, 11-4 in Game 4 for the Yankees to keep their season alive. I mean, if you ask really any Yankee fan or the Yankees, I mean, watching Games 1 through 3 was about as invigorating and as frustrating as for me and a lot of other Yankee fans as I've been in my lifetime watching this team, from the missed opportunities to the questionable managerial decisions to the lack of timely hitting to the Dodgers seemingly doing all the little things correctly and every bounce and every little thing going the Dodgers' way. I mean, games 1 through 3 were as frustrating as it gets on the Yankee side of things, but to finally break through with a big time performance in Game 4 to keep the season alive, and all of a sudden you have a little bit of life and a little bit of hope, and you think, okay, one game at a time. Can this happen? All of a sudden, we've got ourselves a series, and the Yankees will turn to Garrett Cole to try to send this thing back to LA. But all of a sudden, the Yankees have a little bit of life when it seemed like there was no life after going down 3-0 at the end of Game 3.
Yeah, Josh, and I think the biggest thing that stood out to me from last night, and yes, you could look at it from, all right, well, the Dodgers are still up 3-1. They're still feeling comfortable with a 3-1 series lead. And yes, the Yankees backs against the wall once again. But even last night, you could see from the Yankees' point of view that, I mean, this was a controlled game from pretty much start to finish. I would say after the Freddie Freeman home run, the Yankees still stayed to their game and played their game and relied on those high leverage pitchers to come in and shut the door. I think we saw a bit of a different Dodger team yesterday after that first or second inning, Josh. I think when you look at a team that doesn't strike out a lot, 8 strikeouts yesterday, the credit to the Yankee bullpen who really came in and shut the door on this lineup. I feel like there was just a different feeling of, yeah, the Dodgers. I mean, when you look at runners in scoring position, the big hits, the big plays, small ball, whatever it is that they've been doing correctly, it seemed like yesterday there was a bit of a shift to the other side and that the Yankees were kind of taking over that type of game, which is a very good sign to see now in game 4, but obviously something that you would have wanted to see in games 1 through 3, Josh.
Right. I mean, you look at the final score, and obviously the Yankees ended up winning pretty comfortably 11-4, but you might forget that the game actually started the same way that game 3 started, with the Freddie Freeman first inning 2-run home run. And if you're a Yankee fan and you're the Yankees and you're thinking, oh boy, here we go again, right? Deja vu all over again with Freddie Freeman getting it started. And I'm not going to lie, when Freddie Freeman hit that home run, I didn't really have that many high hopes. It seems like, oh boy, we're just going to roll over and die just like we did in game 3. But the Yankees finally punched back and were able to respond and extended the lead, ended up winning pretty comfortably. But the way that this game started, things were not looking too good in Yankee land with the Freddie Freeman first inning home run, who's on an absolute tear right now, by the way, homering in 6 consecutive World Series games. Freddie Freeman is just on another planet right now. But the Dodgers obviously up 3-0. They had some innings, some things to play with. They had the luxury of not needing to use their A guys. Obviously, they were running a bullpen game. They didn't use any of their high leverage relievers. So the Dodgers were thinking, look, if we could win this game, great. I would love to sweep. But it's more important for us to keep our A guys and keep our guys fresh. And maybe we could steal game 4. But if we lose game 4, we have 3 more games. We just need to win one of them. And we have all of our A guys now completely well rested for game 5 with a day off to follow after game 5 before game 6 if necessary. So obviously this is a win that the Yankees desperately needed, and Aaron Boone managed with some urgency by bringing in Luke Weaver there in a big spot in the 7th inning. Obviously the Yankees and the Dodgers are in 2 very different positions in this series. Obviously with the series being 3-0 throughout the course of the game yesterday, Aaron Boone managing with a lot of urgency, knowing that his team absolutely needs to win this game or that's it, the season's over. Dave Roberts, not so much, has a little bit of leeway to play with, has the flexibility of being up 3-0, knowing you don't have to go all in on a game that you don't really need to have. Obviously, if you're the Dodgers, you'd like to have it. You'd like to have completed the sweep, but the Dodgers know that it was in their best interest going with the bullpen game in game 4 to conserve as many of those arms as possible going into a potential game 5 when you might need a lot of those arms, especially when you're facing a guy like Garrett Cole. So the Dodgers had a lot of leeway to play with up 3-0 in the series, and they didn't throw their top flight relievers, their A guys, giving them the day off and knowing that they had a game 5 tomorrow. And the Yankees were able to take advantage of that and put up a lot of runs on the board. And the Yankees will hopefully try to continue that momentum with all the runs they were able to put up against these lower leverage relievers, against some of the upper echelon Dodgers relievers when they have to face Flaherty, and I'd imagine all of their better relievers as well that they conserved for game 4. So the Dodgers had the leeway. They were up 3-0, didn't throw their top guys, saving a lot of those bullets and giving a lot of guys some much needed rest looking ahead to a game 5 here, and the Yankees were able to take advantage and win a game that they absolutely needed.
Yeah, 100%, Josh. And let's look at tonight's game now, as you talked about, and it's an absolutely massive one for the New York Yankees. Obviously, with their backs against the wall once again, Dodgers with a 3-1 series lead, looking to close it out and finish off this World Series in the Bronx. It's going to be Jack Flaherty on the mound, 1-2 so far this postseason, a 6.10 ERA, 1.35 WHIP in 20 innings pitched this postseason. Garrett Cole on the mound for the Yankees, 1-0 this postseason with a 2.82 ERA and a 1.30 WHIP. Josh, when you look at these two guys, an 8:08 start tonight, game 5 in the Bronx, and there is just the little bit of feeling that Yankees get this one, and okay, maybe it's all back to normal, and maybe advantage Yankees heading back to Los Angeles. but they have to win tonight. That's the big thing. Of course, season on the line. You have to win this game, but there is no better man you'd want on the mound than your ace in Garrett Cole.
Absolutely. I mean, are you really ever feeling good when you're down in a series 3-1? No. But given the circumstances, if you're the Yankees, you're feeling pretty good right now. Obviously, you went down 3-0, but the 3 games that you lost were very winnable games and several missed opportunities in which you failed to take advantage. Whatever. Water under the bridge, you push that behind you. You come out, you get a big time winning game 4. Now all of a sudden, you have your ace, Garrett Cole, on the mound. You just have to take this thing one game at a time. And if you take it tonight, you make this a 3-2 series and you send it back to LA, and all of a sudden the Dodgers are feeling a little bit nervous, and you're the ones playing with house money, knowing that you were the ones that just a couple days ago were down 0-3 in the series. All of a sudden we're talking about something here. But if you're the Yankees, obviously you're never really feeling all that good and all that satisfied and all that confident when you're down in a series 3-1. But given the circumstances, I think that the Yankees have to feel just about as good as any team in the past being down 3-1, given the fact that their offense might have finally figured something out in game 4 and got some big hits, and the at-bats looked much better. And a guy that we haven't even mentioned, Aaron Judge, he looked a lot better at the plate yesterday as well. So the offense, the at-bats look much better. You might have figured something out at the plate. You were able to put some runs on the board. You finally got in double digits. There's that. Now, all of a sudden, you have another game at Yankee Stadium. You have your ace on the mound, the guy that you gave $326 million to and $36 million a year in Garrett Cole, who the Yankees are paying to pitch in these big games. And this is what they got. This is what they got Garrett Cole for, to pitch in a game like this with their backs against the wall in a do-or-die spot. So given the fact that the offense figured something out, given the fact that momentum may be leaning towards the Yankee side now, given the fact that they have another game at Yankee Stadium, given the fact that the Yankees are playing with house money right now and all the pressures on the Dodgers after getting out to that 3-0 deficit, that 3-0 series lead with Garrett Cole on the mound. And if you're the Yankees, you have all this momentum. You just have to take this thing one game at a time, win tonight, send this series back to LA. And all of a sudden, the Dodgers and Dodgers fans are probably feeling a little bit nervous going into a potential game 6 and game 7 over the weekend. But if you're the Yankees, one game at a time, you got your no better guy that you could possibly have on the mound for a do or die, a game that you absolutely need to have. Otherwise, the series is over in Garrett Cole. But the Yankees need to take this game tonight, take it one game at a time. And the at-bats need to be the consistent at-bats. And the Yankees are going to need to put some runs on the board tonight, the same way that they did last night. Obviously, this is an offense that has struggled and has been well documented as struggling, especially with the struggles of Aaron Judge all throughout the postseason. So if you're the Yankees, you need more of that magic, more of the same from last night, and a vintage performance from Garrett Cole to send this thing back to LA.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, Josh, the biggest key for me tonight is just continuing on from what happened last night. And when you look at the Yankees this postseason, you look at Juan Soto, you look at Giancarlo Stanton and say, all right, well, those two guys have done their stuff and gotten the Yankees really to where they are. But last night, Josh, it was all about really the bottom of the order. And 7, 8, 9, Volpe, Wells, Verdugo, all three of those guys step up. They get RBIs. They get runs up on the board. I mean, when you look at those three guys with 5 hits, 6 of the 11 runs came from those 3 guys, Josh. So when you look at that, then you say, all right, well, if our bottom of the lineup is stepping up, then it relieves a lot of the pressure off those top guys in Soto and Judge and Stanton to really just don't do too much. Just get on base, pass the baton. I think the Yankees need to get that tonight, especially against Jack Flaherty, who was pretty good in game 1. He was really, really dominant. Obviously, then gave up the home run to Stanton, which really ruined the night for him and ruined his line in the end. But he's going into a game now where we saw last series, NLCS against the Mets, really good game 1, really bad game 5 for Jack Flaherty on the road, high pressure situation, and kind of just threw it away. So if you're the Yankees, you need every part of this lineup to step up. And I'm looking for the bottom to really help jolt the top of the lineup. And like I said, relieve some of the pressure off of those top guys.
Right. I love that you brought the bottom of the order, Malamud, because for much of this, for really not much of this postseason, all of this postseason, it's been the Soto and Stanton show, right? And the Yankees have been looking for those other guys to step up. Well, yesterday it was kind of the opposite, right? Roles reversed. Soto and Stanton were 2 of the only hitters that didn't do anything, and it was everybody else around Soto and Stanton that stepped up, produced the runs and made things happen. And you love to see that, right? Because the Yankees have been so reliant on just those two hitters that you like to see that Soto and Stanton didn't really do anything offensively yesterday and both had kind of rough games, but everybody else stepped up. But yeah, that bottom third of the order between the trio of Volpe, Wells, and Verdugo really stepped up. But you love to see that from the Yankees, from with Soto and Stanton not really doing anything offensively, but it was the other guys that stepped up. And that's another encouraging thing from the Yankees. They won that game 11-4, and they still didn't really get all that much production from Soto and Judge. So you think, okay, they put up 11 runs with Soto and Judge not really doing anything. You know Soto's not going to have a bad game 2 games in a row. If Judge is starting to figure things out at the plate, which we think that he might be, he got on base 3 times yesterday, all of a sudden you're talking, if you're the Yankees, and if Soto and Judge can put it together and have a big game tonight, the Yankees have a really, really good chance of winning. But you love to see that with Soto and Stanton having subpar games after carrying pretty much all of the offensive load throughout the entire postseason. You love to see the other guys stepping up, especially that bottom third of the order there.
Yeah, 100% Josh Bennett. And it should be an interesting one tonight. A absolutely massive game in the Bronx. An 8:08 start. Dodgers lead the series 3-1. Yankees with their backs against the wall. It's Flaherty taking on Cole. And if the Yankees just get one tonight, watch out, because this series will be a whole new ball game. So tune into that one later. Flaherty taking on Cole in Game 5. Josh, let's move on to our next sport today, and it's coming in the NBA, where the New York Knicks haven't had the greatest start to their season. Obviously, a lot of expectations, but of course, it's super early and only 3 regular season games in. But the Knicks sit at 1-2. They head to Miami tonight to take on the 2-1 Miami Heat on the road. Knicks actually coming into this game, Josh, as 1.5-point favorites on the road in Miami. So that's an interesting one. Obviously, they got some injuries to worry about. I mean, just the main one is Josh Hart, who's a game-time decision. Jalen Brunson did hurt his ankle the other night, but he's good to go for later this evening. Josh, a 7:30 start in Miami. Just talk about, I mean, these first 3 games have been a little bit tough on the Knicks based on their schedule. Boston, Indiana, Cleveland. It's 3 playoff teams right there. So not the easiest road for the New York Knicks, but they just have to start to figure things out and kind of gelling with their new guys in Mikal Bridges as well as Karl Anthony Towns, Josh.
Right. It's been a tough start for the Knicks, for the lack of a better term, this season, but the schedule makers really gifted the Knicks with an absolute gauntlet of a schedule to start the season. I mean, you talk about going to Boston, having to play Indiana, having to play against Cleveland, now going to Miami. I mean, this is about as tough a start as it possibly could have gotten, as it possibly could have been for the Knicks. But this is a good test because these are the teams that you're going to likely need to get through in order to get through the Eastern Conference and maybe make it to the finals and win the whole thing, which is something that the Knicks envision on potentially doing next spring. But obviously a tough start for the Knicks, right? You had the historic shooting night and just a tough overall debut for this Knicks team in the first game against Boston. Then you had a really, really good bounce back performance at the home opener, annihilating the Pacers, who eliminated you from the playoffs last year. And then a really tough loss in a game that was very winnable, in a game you probably should have had against Cleveland the other night, a game in which you led by double digits in the middle of the third quarter, in the middle of the second half. So that's a game that the Knicks probably want back and probably should have won. But I'm not really ready to come to any definite conclusions on what maybe the problem is or why the Knicks didn't win that game, because it's still just so early in the season. And with the additions of Bridges and Cat, this is still a core. This is still a starting lineup of Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, and Cat that is still attempting to learn how to play with each other. So I still feel like you have to give it time. And if they can come away with a win against Miami, and Miami's a tough team, but it's still a team that the Knicks, I believe, are a hell of a lot more talented than them, and a game that they could very much win, even though it's on the road in a tough, hostile environment. I get that Miami's a very tough place to play, but all things considered, with the way that the Knicks are trying to learn how to play with each other on the fly, and you have a new group and a new dynamic and kind of a new scheme and a new system that you have to learn with the new players that are in place. If you could come away with a win against Miami and get through these 4 really tough games to start the season at 2-2, I think if you're the Knicks and you're a Knicks fan, you take that early on. Obviously, it's not the start that you wanted. It's not the immediate results and not the immediate domination that you envision getting from this Knicks team. But I'm really confident in this squad, and I think as time goes on and as more games are under these guys' belts, they will develop the chemistry and they will get in a groove and they will get rolling and they'll start shooting the ball better and the shots will start to fall. The three ball will start to fall as well. So I really think with this Knicks team, you need to give it time. Obviously, in Miami, never an easy game. Heat teams are always tough. But if the Knicks can come away with a win tonight, I think you take through these first four games a 2-2 start any day of the week.
Yeah, and Josh, we're talking about a Miami team who in the last couple of games faced Detroit, Charlotte. I mean, they got smoked by Orlando in their first game of the year. So this is a team that, yeah, they have a 2-1 record right now, but they're also playing a lot higher or lower level teams than the Knicks have faced off against. So I think the Knicks' confidence going into tonight is through just their star players. They're going to have their guys on the floor. Obviously, like I said, we'll see what the story is with Josh Hart and getting back from that little bit of injury that he got against Cleveland. But I think if you're the Knicks, yeah, you're feeling confident, even though just a couple losses on the board. But yeah, it's a not every game and not every schedule is going to be like this. Not every 4-game stretch you're going to have 4 playoff teams to go up against. So I think this game is a big one for the Knicks because it kind of just gives you confidence heading into this next stretch after this tough stretch of games. And when you look at the Knicks overall, like the talent is definitely there. They just have to mesh together and get these new guys involved in their system and Tibbs's system. So I think it should be a good one tonight for the New York Knicks. Obviously, heading into this one at 1-2, Heat come in at 2-1, a 7:30 start tonight. And Josh, it's going to be a telling one for the New York Knicks, whether or not this team is actually meshing well together, and we'll see that tonight. And Josh, let's head from the hardwood to the gridiron as the New York Giants fell to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. 26-18, the final score. Giants moved to 2-6 on the year, and the Steelers are now 6-2. And we look at it from the Giants' point of view, Josh. In this one, I mean, the story of this game is Daniel Jones, in the end, a pretty solid stat line, 24 of 38, 264 passing yards, but no touchdowns and an interception. I mean, in the end, when it comes to the Giants and this offense that we talk about it each and every week, they just cannot put up points on the board. Tyrone Tracy was the only one that put up a score in this one for the Giants. The rest of it was field goals, Josh. And when you play in these type of games, maybe on the road against tough opponents, against tough defenses, you have to find ways to score and put touchdowns up on the board, or else it's just going to be a long day each and every week for you. And the Giants just have not been able to figure that out in recent weeks, Josh.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record saying this, but touchdowns are what win you football games. And the Giants, for the Giants, that's extremely hard to come by for them. But you look at the counting numbers, right, and they look pretty good. Daniel Jones threw the ball 24 of 38, 264 yards. You take that. You take those numbers. Tyrone Tracy, who now has all of a sudden emerged as the Giants' RB1. He's been playing really good football lately. He's completely overtaken a Devin Singletary as the top running back on the depth chart. He rushed for 145 yards and a touchdown. So you look at the counting numbers and you say, okay, the Giants had a pretty good night offensively. But it's the same story, it seems like, every game where the Giants have solid counting numbers, but they'll have all these promising drives where they'll be just outside the red zone, or they'll be on the doorstep, or they'll get into the red zone. And how many times do they settle for field goals? Just about every single time. And when you settle for a field goal every single time, it's not going to get you that many wins. And even the one touchdown the Giants scored, I believe, was a long run by Tyrone Tracy. The Giants weren't even remotely close to the red zone. So it's almost like the only way that the Giants can score a touchdown is if it's on a big-time home run play, like a 45-yard run like the one Tyrone Tracy had. But other than that, you have all these promising drives and you're accumulating all these yards and getting on the doorstep of the end zone or getting into the red zone or getting close to the red zone. And every drive seems to stagnate and they always settle for a field goal. And that can only take you so far. And it hasn't gotten the Giants that far. And that's pretty much the same story that I feel like I go over every single week when I go on the show on Wednesdays, right, Malamud? The Giants' inability to get into the end zone, the amount that they have to settle for field goals. The offense overall doesn't look terrible. It's not incompetent like it is on some other games. For the most part, it's actually been pretty solid, but it's just finishing drives. And when you get into the red zone, punching it in is something that the Giants just have not been able to do all year long, and that's why they're 2-6.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem here, though, Josh, that comes from this is when you look at Daniel Jones and the quarterback level from him to maybe the next couple of guys, like it's a lot different. You're not going to put a Drew Lock in the game and really just feel confident that you're going to come out with a win, though. That's been the story for the Giants, and maybe their fans sitting there complaining about all right, is it time? Like Daniel Jones moves to the bench and we go a different direction. But I don't even think that helps them, Josh. I do think Daniel Jones has the product, and 24 of 38 is not a bad stat line. 264, not a bad stat line. But when you look at the offense overall, does a QB change do something for it? I don't think so. I think it's just as simple as they need to figure out ways and figure out different plays on offense that will get their elite playmakers out into positions to get a touchdown in the end. Malik Neighbors is very talented. If you come up with a great play for him, he will find the end zone. If you look at other guys in Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, who, I mean, yes, they're not the sexy names on the Giants roster, but when you look at what they can do with the ball in their hands, they can come up with productive touchdowns and other things in the end. I think when you look at Tyrone Tracy as well out of the backfield, he's another option, maybe in the passing game as well, to rely on to get in the end zone. But the Giants' play calling, I feel like, on offense also limits their ability to get into the end zone. I don't think it's going to take a quarterback change, Josh. I do think they need to figure things out play calling wise and get their receivers and their playmakers in better positions. And that will ultimately help them find the end zone.
Right. I mean, the play calling, you could point to that, but I look at the Giants' weapons, and the weapons aren't bad, right? Tyrone Tracy, I mean, Devin Singletary is a solid back. Tyrone Tracy has really emerged and looks like he could be the Giants' future running back. He looks great. And the Giants have a bona fide wide receiver one in Malik Neighbors, and then solid secondary and tertiary guys in Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson. It looks like Jalen Hyatt isn't even a factor on offense, but he's a guy that the Giants spent the draft pick on. But the weapons and the talent seems to be there. It's on Daniel Jones, in my opinion, to put it all together. Now, do I personally think Daniel Jones is the answer at quarterback? And do I think that he's a franchise quarterback in the future for the Giants at quarterback? No. But that doesn't mean that Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito are better options than Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones still does give you, clearly, given the options, the best chance to win. But in terms of the play calling, they just need to get Malik Neighbors out in space, right? That seems to be the formula, and how they score most of their touchdowns and how they're going to get into the end zone and finish these drives. Create illusions, create just anything to get Malik Neighbors in space with room to run, because when he has the ball in his hands, he does magical things. And they need to, obviously they've been kind of easing Malik Neighbors back into the mix after he's coming off that concussion where he missed a couple games. He kind of had a subpar game the week before, was a little more involved in the offense with 7 receptions for 71 yards this past week against the Steelers, but still hasn't had that monster game that we were seeing from him before the concussion injury. So as we see him get, more reintegrated in the offense and they kind of ease him back in more post-concussion, I think that we're going to see a hell of a lot more of Malik Neighbors in the coming weeks. But he's obviously the key to the Giants offense and the key to them scoring touchdowns and putting points on the board and punching it into the end zone. Create something, crossing routes, something to get defenders off Malik Neighbors with space and room to run. And that's really the key for the offense. There's not much else to it. Darius Slayton had a really good game, 4 receptions for 108 yards. Obviously, Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson are very good complementary pieces. But if the Giants are going to have any chance to win some of these games, maybe go on a run, salvage the season, string some wins together, it's going to be through Malik Neighbors and force-feeding Malik Neighbors to the ball to a point where maybe you're targeting him close to 20 times and he's pushing 12, 13 receptions. That's what the Giants need out of him if they want this offense to get anywhere near where it could be and in a position where they could be putting enough points on the board where they have a chance to win, because the way that they score points right now, not even getting 20 points in each and every game, settling for field goals, not being able to punch it into the end zone, it's just not going to cut it. So in order to turn this around, it's all about Malik Neighbors and getting Malik Neighbors in space with room to run and just force feeding him the ball, basically.
And yeah, Josh, 13 targets on the day for Malik Neighbors as the Giants look to this upcoming weekend against the Commanders, a divisional matchup for them as they fall to 2-6 and a 26-18 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Josh, let's move it to the other side of MetLife Stadium, where the New York Jets have just had it all sputter out of control, and they lose once again, to the New England Patriots. I mean, when you look at this game overall, Patriots came in at 1-6, Jets came in at 2-5. You're thinking, all right, well, what's the score going to be? Are the Jets going to absolutely rout them here? And it was just the complete opposite. And the Jets somehow lose to the Patriots. Yes, it was in New England. Yes, everything is going wrong for the Jets. But how do they lose to the New England Patriots? I mean, we're talking about a Patriots team that, yeah, they switched to Drake May and went to him as their quarterback. He got hurt in the first half of this game. There is just absolutely no excuse for the Jets losing this game. Now they fall to 2-6, and I think the season's pretty much over, Josh. I understand when people look at the schedule and say, all right, well, yeah, they could win some games here. They don't look like they could win any games right now. They looked absolutely terrible in this one. And when in the big moments come and everybody comes to the defense of Aaron Rodgers, and believe me, Aaron Rodgers, a first ballot Hall of Famer, like 100% from what he's done in his NFL career. But this is awful. This is not Aaron Rodgers. This is 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who's just a different guy than the one we've seen in all of those MVP seasons. I mean, the stat line wasn't bad in this one. It just comes down to the big plays. He was 17 of 28, 233 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But Josh, like the big moments, they need to finish off drives, something, anything at all. And they would settle for a field goal or they would punt. And all of a sudden, the Patriots would easily respond with an answer on the other end. You can't always, yes, the defense has gotten a lot of blame under Jeff Ulbrich. And yeah, it's been different since Saleh walked out the door for this defense. But the offense doesn't do much anyways. I mean, this is supposed to be a high-powered offense that should be running through their opponents, and they just don't do it, Josh. What is the problem here?
I really don't know what the problem is here, Malamud, but I mean, as if you didn't think that the Jets could go any lower than they already were and reach a new low point on the season. The Jets say, hold my beer, it gets worse. I mean, this loss to the Patriots is the lowest of all lows, falling to 2-6. I don't even know if it's possible for the Jets to salvage the season at this point. But what else can you say? I mean, the Jets just find new ways to lose. It seems like every single time. The Chiefs, who I don't even think are playing particularly well, they just find ways to win every single game. Mahomes hasn't even been that good this season. But the Jets just seem to find new ways to lose, and it's just unbelievable. And there's really not much else you could say other than just shake your head and just these are just who the Jets are. And on paper, you look at their team and they have all the talent in the world to be amongst the top Super Bowl contenders in the league. But unfortunately for the Jets, games are not won on paper. Games are won out there on the gridiron, and the Jets have just not gotten the job done on the field. But I'm not ready to place all the blame on Aaron Rodgers, and here's why. Because the Jets brought Aaron Rodgers in knowing that he's older and knowing that he's not the MVP player and he's not the player that he was when he was younger, when he was with Green Bay. But they didn't bring him in expecting him to be the MVP. They just brought him in expecting him to be a serviceable quarterback. And the Jets constructed this roster in a way that it appeared in which Aaron Rodgers didn't need to be the hero. The roster was supposed to be constructed in a way that if Aaron Rodgers was just good enough and he was just solid and he just held his own, that the Jets, with their defense, with the weapons that they have, with the supporting cast they have, as long as Aaron Rodgers is just solid and holds his own, the Jets would still be able to win football games. And in this game, Aaron Rodgers held his own. You said it. I mean, he threw for 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and he led that game-winning drive that appeared like it was going to win them the game late in the fourth quarter there. Aaron Rodgers did his job this game. Now, it's not what Jets fans are going to want to hear because obviously they want more from Aaron Rodgers, right? Even though he's 40 years old, they want him to return back to his MVP form and be the player that he was in Green Bay. But that's just not what he is anymore. But in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers did his job here, and he did enough for the Jets to win this game. And it's a mix of two things. Obviously, the defense allowing inexplicitly allowing an incredible drive by the Patriots when the Jets had just taken the lead. You're thinking, okay, the Jets finally got this game-winning drive. Braylon Allen rushes it in for a touchdown. The Jets take the lead in the fourth quarter with about a minute to go, and you're thinking, okay, Rodgers finally got the job done. The Jets finally got the job done. But there are two people to blame here. The defense for not getting a stop on a Patriots team in a Patriots offense that just has no business scoring on the Jets offense in that spot, especially like you said, with Drake May leaving the game early, with Jacoby Brissett. I mean, allowing a game-winning signature drive like that to Jacoby Brissett can't happen. Unacceptable. But then the other person is Greg Zuerlein. I mean, if the Jets have a different kicker who isn't missing extra points and easy chip shot field goals, how much different is this season? Are we talking about a 4-4, a 5-3 Jets team? A team if Greg Zuerlein is able to make kicks that most kickers are able to make in their sleep. So those are my two main things from this game as far as who's to blame. Now, obviously, you said it, all the talent on this offense between Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, the addition of Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers. This should be a high-powered Jets offense that is putting up a hell of a lot more than what they have been putting up. But in this game in particular, and in a lot of other games, I think the defense, especially in this game, and the play of Greg Zuerlein and the kicker and how they haven't cut him and gotten a new kicker is beyond me. But there are a lot of other factors than just blaming Aaron Rodgers and the offense for why the Jets have been winning games. Because whether it's Aaron Rodgers' fault or in spite of Aaron Rodgers, there are plenty of other facets within the games. You look at the Denver game, you look at this Patriots game, you look at the Minnesota game. There are plenty of other ways around the way that the offense is played and the way that Aaron Rodgers has played, where if other people were doing their job, the Jets probably win that football game.
Yeah, it's definitely fair. And Greg Zuerlein actually going to be out for this week against the Texans. And the Jets obviously have two new kickers on the practice squad. One of them is Riley Patterson, a former kicker for the Jaguars. And when you look at the kicking problems, yeah, that's been a big story of it, and has obviously let the Jets down in some big moments. You think back to the Denver loss. I mean, the game winner that Greg Zuerlein could have had obviously pushes it, and then you look at even a game like this where just a missed field goal is so deflating for an offense in the end. And when you look at what the Jets have been able to do this season, getting something like that and finally getting your team into a good situation, into field goal range, and for it all to come just downhill from there is obviously very disappointing. But I mean, the Jets lose this one 25-22 in New England, a stunning loss. And just each and every week, Josh, we seem to say, all right, well, on to next week. Here we go. So let's do it, Josh. A Thursday Night Football preview. And of course, the New York Jets have to play in this one. They host the Houston Texans. Texans coming in at 6-2, Jets coming in at 2-6, and somehow, the New York Jets are favored in this game by 2, Josh, on their home field. Maybe that has a little bit to do with it. Maybe the injuries for the Houston Texans has to do with it as well. But the Jets are favored? The Jets can't even figure out how to win a regular season football game against the Patriots. And all of a sudden, they're favored against the 6-2 Texans. But, Josh, 2-point favorites, the Jets are. Total sitting at 42.5. Just expectations for this game. Obviously, Houston going to be without Nico Collins as well as Stephon Diggs for this one.
Right, and what you just said right there is the reason why I believe the Jets are favored. I mean, this is a great Houston Texans team, a Texans team that has Super Bowl aspirations, or had Super Bowl aspirations, but the injuries have really caught up to them, especially in their receiving core with what was expected to be one of the top receiving duos in the league in Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, and all of a sudden both are out. Diggs is out for the season with an ACL, and Nico Collins out for the foreseeable future as well on IR. So now it's really Tank Dell, John Mechie, and a bunch of other guys that most people probably don't know. But this is a really banged up Texans team, and if you're the Jets, I mean, if there was ever a time to catch the Texans, this was the week to do it. I mean, think about it. Everything is going against the Texans in this game, right? They're coming off. They're coming off. Obviously, they already had no Nico Collins. They're coming off losing Stephon Diggs. Yeah, they're coming off a win, but even with those injuries, they have a short week this week, so they have less time to adjust to the new offensive scheme and preparing for life without Stephon Diggs. So if there was ever a time to catch the Houston Texans, now's the time, and the Jets have to take advantage and play a good, clean football game and jump on them early if they want to win this game. But this is it for the Jets right here. If they don't win this game, I think you can officially kiss the season goodbye. But obviously, I feel like it seems like we've been saying this for, I don't know, the past 2, 3, 4 weeks where, okay, the Jets have to start their season now. They have to start the turnaround now. They have to start the turnaround now. This might be the final chance for that turnaround to actually begin now. And on Thursday Night Football, on national TV, this is when it has to happen for the Jets. They're going to have to bounce back in a big way after just a terrible loss against New England, a game that they should have had, a game that they could have had. But obviously, football is all about turning the page and moving on to the next week. This is a game that the Jets need to have.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And when you look at this game, like it's still stunning to me that the Jets are favored here, Josh. I mean, like when you look at everything that's gone wrong, and then you look at on the other side, Houston sitting at 6-2, even through the injuries, like they didn't have Nico Collins last week or the week before, and still won a game, lost a game. Yeah, it was close in the end, the game that they lost. They were on the road in Green Bay, came down to a last-second field goal. All of those games, like, yeah, they were really solid there, and they're dominating teams, even with some of those injuries. Yes, now they lose Diggs, so that's a big loss for them. And now you said it, on a short week, have to go on the road, take on the Jets, who, I mean, they just have to throw everything out there. Backs against the wall now, season really on the line, if it wasn't already. And now you look at this game, yeah, Jets at 2-point favorites. Josh, the ultimate question, who are you picking in this one, and where do you think this game lands total-wise?
Oh man, this is a tough one right here. This is one of the toughest times I've had with a Thursday Night Football pick from our past shows, Malamud. I'm gonna go with the Texans here, even with all the injuries to the receiving core, with Nico Collins, with Stephon Diggs, and how tough that is for them. I still think the Texans are still a good enough football team that they step into MetLife and get a win. And the Jets, I mean, they just have all these things just going against them, and they just can't seem to figure out a way to win, and they just can't seem to rally the troops and just get anything going offensively. Now, maybe for the Jets, this will be a Game 4 Yankee-esque performance, right? Where it seems like everything's spiraling out of control, nothing's going your way, you can't figure anything out, but then Game 4 comes along, and the Yankees finally break through offensively, and they finally figure something out. Maybe this can be, for the Jets, their version of the Yankees Game 4. But I'm going with the safer pick here, and I'm going with the Texans. And I love their quarterback. I love C.J. Stroud. Joe Mixon has been on another planet ever since coming back from his injury. And the Texans have really been a run-heavy team, but obviously they have Stroud to throw if they need. Obviously, they're missing a lot of those weapons, so look for Joe Mixon to be very much featured both in the passing game and in the running game for the Texans. But I'm going to go with the Texans here to win this game on Thursday Night Football, just with all the bad things that are happening for the Jets. I just don't see them turning it around. I don't see them figuring it out. We have a pretty low over-under at 42.5, much lower than the over-under that we had on last week's Thursday Night Football game. So due to the low over-under, I think there are going to be some points scored in this game. So I'm going to take the over on this one, Malamud. So I got that. I got the Texans winning this game somehow, as you said it, as underdogs on Thursday Night Football in MetLife, and I'll take the over.
Interesting, Josh. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much agree with you. I'm going to take the Texans as well, because when you look at this game, I was thinking, I'm like, all right, well, they're just got to be some favored for some reason. I just don't know why. I really don't. I understand the injuries and everything on even defense as well. When it comes to injuries, Jimmy Ward, Azeez Al-Shire are both out for this game. So those are two big losses for the Texans on defense. I think when you look at the Jets, how do you feel confident picking the Jets, even with all the injuries to the Texans? I would take the Texans specifically because of their offense, even without those guys. Joe Mixon, a guy that you brought up, he has been absolutely fantastic. And he's going up against a Jets team that cannot tackle for their lives. Cannot tackle. Missed tackles everywhere. So how are you going to control a running back that's been on fire like Joe Mixon if you cannot tackle? I think Joe Mixon really controls this game. I think the Texans offense really just slows things down. They're going to have a good game plan and figure things out here. So I'll pick them. I'm going to take the under, though, Josh. I do think the Jets bounce back when it comes to like defense. I mean, yes, the stats have been absolutely horrendous when Jeff Ulbrich took over from when Robert Saleh was the head coach. When it comes to defense, and of course, Ulbrich, a defensive mind, you're like, how in the world could they have gotten worse? But they got much worse in the process of that. I do think they bounce back here. I think they keep it close. I just think based on the injuries on this Texans side that they won't put up a ton of points, but they'll squeeze one out because the Jets will look at some way to absolutely screw it up, probably at the end. So I'll pick the Texans as well here, Josh. But definitely an interesting one this Thursday night as the Jets take on the Texans. But Josh, final thoughts from today. Obviously, Yankees Game 5, we talked about it earlier. Backs against the wall. They have to come up big. It's Cole and Flaherty on the mound. And I mean, it's an iffy one for us tonight here.
Right. We have a great pitching matchup, the same pitching matchup we saw in Game 1, and that pitcher's duel lived up to the billing. I'm interested to see what adjustments both offenses made. Obviously, both offenses got dominated by both Jack Flaherty and Garrett Cole in Game 1. Do we get a surprisingly high-scoring game tonight because both of these offenses have had time to adjust and study these pitchers, and this is the second time they're gonna see them in this series? That'll be interesting to see. That's something that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, Game 5 tonight, Yankees backs against the wall. Can they rekindle some of that magic that they found in Game 4, carry it over to Game 5, and send this thing back to LA? Looking forward to it. Must win for the Yankees in Game 5 tonight.
Yeah, 100%. And tune into that one later. But that'll do it for episode 17 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. From Josh Malat, I've been Zach Malat. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Friday.